All right, I'm recording. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Newbie orientation for Camp Walter. And let's go. All right. So just to give you a quick idea, I'm going to run through this as quickly as I can because I don't want to take up your Sunday. Stop and ask me questions along the way. I'll also leave time at the end if you want to have, if you have any questions. I'm going to set a few expectations, cover some of the principles of Burning Man, and I'm going to tell you what you kind of need to survive and not die. It's awkward. We got to bury your bodies, explain to relatives when you don't show up at home. So really I'm not going to try and tell you what Burning Man's going to be like for you, because that's different for everyone. It's each to their own when it comes to that. Absolutely. So please feel free to raise your hands along the way and ask questions. I'll remember to, or if I forget, remind me to repeat it for the folks online. And folks online, if you have questions, please go ahead and ask. I won't be able to keep track of the chat because I'm terrible at multitasking. Julie, if you see stuff coming through, yeah, Julie will watch the chat and help me out here. All right, so back over here. So please don't call it a festival. It's not. You know, a festival is something you pay money for and you're provided with entertainment. Here you are the festival. You are the event. You bring everything to it. You receive and you give. So it really isn't, you're not a spectator. You are absolutely a participant. Radical self-reliance was mentioned before. Plan, you're not going to have anything to buy out there except ice. And ice is pretty cool because you can buy block ice and you can buy cubed ice. I'll talk a little bit more about food and food safety and keeping stuff cool, but plan to be as self-reliant as you can. Remember, though, that you have neighbors, you have friends, you have people you can reach out to, so don't suffer. The Burning Man 10 principles, I'm going to very quickly run through them, but before I start, I want to tell you the slight difference between Instagram Burning Man and reality, right? We're reality Burning Man. That happens. And they curate everything that they do and then post it on their Instas. This is what we do. We hang out, we have a good time, we party, we eat, drink, and be merry. That was 1997. And the Burning Man was 40 feet tall and on straw bales, and we'd take our dinner out there and sit under the man and eat. Sometimes while people were having sex around us. Radical inclusion, meaning we accept people. Now, radical inclusion doesn't mean you can go and be a complete ass and people have to accept you. It is express yourself. You want to wear a wedding dress and walk around, do so. You want to wear a kilt and walk around, do so. You want to wear your jeans and t-shirt and walk around, do so. It's perfectly fine. Gifting is something that is another huge part of Burning Man. We don't sell anything. Our bar we run free. By the way, pizza's here. Feel free to go grab one if you want something. But sometimes it becomes a stressful thing for people, and it should not be. Because what we've been convinced gifting is what happens around Christmas time. There's the, oh, Sven gave me an iPod. I now need to get him. Okay, I'm old. I just said iPod. But anyway, I now need to get him something of equal or greater value because otherwise it isn't right. There isn't balance. Well, that's absolutely not Burning Man. If somebody gifts you something at Burning Man, that gift is, your gift to them is saying thank you and receiving that and graciously receiving that, right? And your gift doesn't need to be material. You're walking around and you see somebody struggling to set a tent up. You help them set that tent up. You see somebody's car stuck and you say, hey, I got jumper cables. You want me to try and bring my car over here? And, you know, those are gifts. Random people that need some help them out. Anything like that's a gift. Decommodification. It used to be a big thing. You rent a U-Haul truck and then you tape over the U-Haul and make it U-Haul ass or something like that, right? It's not a huge thing. It's just that, you know, try not to wear your Abercrombie shirts or whatever it is, or your Supreme outfits and so on. be less governed by what happens in the default world and let yourself relax for things with things like that. I spoke about self-reliance. Self-expression is another thing. Okay, so there's a balance here, right? You suddenly feel that you're all about peace, love, and happiness, and you decide you're going to go around and hug everybody you meet. Some people aren't comfortable with that. Some people have had bad experiences in their lives and are not comfortable with that physical presence with people they don't know or they're not comfortable with. Ask first. That's the easiest thing to do. May I take a photograph of you? Can I get you a drink? Would you like a drink of water? You know, anything like that. Ask. That's all it takes. But be yourself. Go crazy, or be the person that you've never really been sure you want to be. And you can do that. Communal effort, you've with the conversation we had about the camp, it is a community work. We work together, we build it together. The civic responsibility part ties into everything above. Be nice, be a good citizen, be helpful. All right. Something's beeping. Do y'all hear that?
Yeah. It's the alarm.
Oh, okay. Not a bomb or something. Leave no traces here. So you heard the word mook thrown around. It's an old military term, matter out of place. Basically anything that shouldn't be on the playa. What's that? Glitter, hair, every little thing. Like, we are on our hands and knees cleaning that stuff up. Now, what really helps, and this is what we've done at Camp Walter, is there isn't just the mook sweep on Sunday, which used to take 6 hours. It's now down to about an hour and a half. It won't happen at 8. We're not functional at 8 in the morning on Sunday. We'll adjust that. But anytime you see anything on the ground, just pick it up, put it in your pocket, put it in your little bag and take it with you, and throw it back in your trash can at your camp. That way we keep the place clean week long. And this, Ava and Alan and their MOOC team, they're fabulous, because throughout the week, we keep our camp immaculate. Remember, we're going to have hundreds, thousands of people walking through our area. We are in like 90210 beach frontage. We are on the playa. There aren't a lot of camps that get that kind of placement, but that also brings with it a lot of traffic. So leaving no trace is huge. Participate, be involved, and immediacy is kind of what Elvis talked about. You're on an art car, you're riding around, you see another art car, you go chat with them, you get on a ride and you go. I'm going to talk about a few precautions about that, but do things, don't have to plan ahead and stuff like that. Now, 10 principles are what Burning Man was built on. This was used for many years, was taken as a given. But now we're being more intentional about it, and that's consent. Ask. Just because somebody is walking around naked doesn't mean that they want to have sex with you. It doesn't mean that they want their photo taken. Ask. Consent is about everything around that. It's respect for each other. And the Bureau of Erotic Discourse has some excellent information about that. All right, getting there. For the folks coming from Arizona, it's pretty much a long ass drive. If you Google it, it'll tell you it's 12 hours and something minutes. That's an absolute lie. Depending on the year and depending on the traffic. This run is basically the Vegas run, Wickenburg, Las Vegas. From here, from Vegas to Fallon, Nevada, there is nothing. It's little podunk towns. And when the speed limit says 45, 35, 25 miles an hour, you need to be doing 44 when you hit that sign, because those police stations, they make a lot of money on burners driving through, and you're driving, 80 miles an hour on the open stretch, and you just, we cruise down and we 10 miles over the speed limit, right? That's what we drive in Arizona, not in those little towns. Also, gas is few and far between. So if you're driving a big rig that's doing 7 miles to the gallon because you've weighed it down, please plan accordingly and gas up as frequently as you can so you don't get stuck without gas. I mean, these days with Google Maps and stuff, it's pretty easy to figure out, or Gas Buddy or any of those apps, it's pretty easy to figure out where stuff is. All right, so here's the difficult part. You get all the way there, and the last 77 miles is single lane on either side. And you've got 80,000 people trying to get in to Black Rock City, spread out over a few days. It's much worse on the way out. And this is kind of what it looks like on the way in. Don't stress out. There's no reason. This is it. Getting mad about it isn't going to change anything. Have a good time. Please remember that you get off the asphalt and you're driving into the Playa. That doesn't mean you can sit with a beer in your cup holder and drink your way in. There are cops out there. They will give you a DUI. Thank you. There were people waiting. Okay. So please be careful. You know, the way we've run it always is if you're in the RV, you've got your designated drivers, everybody else is partying in the back. Just don't be stupid about it. And get out, walk around, meet your friends, stuff like that. Plan for long lines. The last 2 years have been amazing. The old traditions of gate went away and somebody who knew how to run stuff efficiently took over. And we've sailed in the last few years. But there was 1 year where it rained and the Playa shuts down because this stuff it turns into slick mud that becomes glue, and you can drive maybe 10 yards and your wheels will stop. So basically nothing happens when it rains. The line was backed up all the way to the whole 77 miles, and every hotel was sold out because the gates were closed for 24 hours. In 23 visits, it happened one time. So it's just, you know, you have your food, you have your water, you have all that stuff. There'll be porta potties along the way, so you can go while you wait. All right. On the way out, this one's the harder one because now you've got 80,000 people trying to leave. You've got people coming in from a week before to the Saturday night of and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Sunday and Monday are the big exodus days, and those lines can get crazy. Like 7, 8, 9 hours is not unusual. If you have a flight to catch, if you have to be back at work by a certain time, your best bet, Saturday night is when the man burns. Okay, hang on, there we go. If Saturday night is when the man burns, there are some people who leave immediately after that. They'll have their vehicles packed, they'll hit the road immediately after. Sunday night, when the temple burns, there are a bigger number of people who have their vehicles packed and ready to go and they're going out. So right after that is really tough. If you have to get out and if waiting in line is not an option for you, usually that 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. window is the best time to drive out. Shitty thing about that is you've been partying like a rock star all night and you're exhausted. You don't want to be drunk on your way out because those cops, they will nail you. And they'll follow you. You're doing 2 miles over the speed limit. They'll pull you over and then it's all downhill from there. So please, please don't do that. It's also a stupid thing to do. You put others at risk, you put yourself at risk. The one thing I'll say about that is you will want to keep driving when you're tired. You'll think that you can chug a coffee, chug a Coke, whatever it is, and keep going. It isn't worth it. Nothing you have to do is worth risking your life and the lives of others for. Pull over at a safe place, stop and sleep. You'll see a bunch of ranchers, the whole houses in Nevada. I pulled into one of those parking lots and slept because I don't know if any of y'all remember the movie The Hitcher, because that's pretty much the stretch of nothingness from Vegas to Fallon. It looks like you're going to get murdered on the side of the road. That's what it feels like. Find a gas station, find a little town, find a funny ranch and get some sleep and move on when you feel up to it.
See you there, Rudy.
And you might see Elvis inside. He's got the 10th visitors free card. All right. So real quick about the streets and navigating through Black Rock City. The city itself is a semicircle. And then what you're seeing here on the left-hand side is the radial streets that are named from 10, 9, 8, all the way to 2 o'clock on this side. This is the open playa. The man will be right in the middle of that little circle right there. The circular streets, the semicircular streets around, I never bother to remember the name. The front street, the beach frontage that we're on is called the Esplanade. And then it'll be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way up to K. That makes it super easy to share your location with friends. For example, when you say that we are at 9:15 in Esplanade, it means that you start at 9 o'clock and we're a little in the 10 o'clock direction from there. It's really easy to find. Similarly, if your friend says that at E and 3 o'clock, you can find them that way. It's pretty easy to get to the nearest area. The distances, and I'm not expecting you all to read this, but from one end to the other is about 2 miles. From center camp to the end to the trash fence at the end is about 2 miles. It is a hella long distance to walk. And one of the words of caution with immediacy and jumping on an art car and cruising off is that art car driver might also experience a moment of immediacy because they stop off at some place and meet the love of their life and decide that they're going to stay there for the next 6 hours. And so don't anticipate coming back in that same vehicle that you rode out in. If we go out in our cars, we'll bring you back safe. All right, getting in. You'll be coming in on the 6 o'clock road is when you're driving in from the main road. You'll go through Gate. You go through a station called Greeters so Gate is the business end of the operation. They'll come in, they'll search your vehicle, make sure that you don't have stowaways in your cargo holds and under your beds and whatever. They'll check your tickets. First thing you do when you get into your car here is a physical check of your ticket or your will call pass. Print it out, take it with you because connectivity is absolute hit or miss, more miss on Playa. When you get in, I go left to the first road you see going down, maybe the second one, 6:30, 7 o'clock. And the reason I say turn in there is obviously it's a shorter run if you take the inner concentric circle. So just do ride that way all the way up to, I would say go beyond to 9:30. Drive down to when you reach those roads, the A road, which is one road in from the Esplanade, there's no driving on that unless you're going to or from your camp. So come up to the A road at 9:30 or 9 o'clock and stop, park your vehicle in a safe place, walk in, find someone from Camp Walter and ask them where they want you to set up. You don't want to pull in the middle of the night, set up your tent in somebody else's spot and then have to take everything apart the next day and move someplace else. That's a shitty way to start the week. So make sure you get placed nicely. If you come in at night, my suggestion is sleep in your car or take out just what you need to get as much rest as you can and then get yourself started. By the way, I'll put this whole slide deck up there so you'll have all this and resources and stuff like that. We talked a little bit about transportation on Playa. Walking, you'll be doing a heck of a lot of that. So when you get your fancy ass cool boots that are thigh highs and look badass, walk in them here for the next month and make sure that your feet don't end up bleeding like my friend Lisa did. And when she took her white socks off that night, they were pink because her blisters burst. And, I mean, she was 3 sheets to the wind, so she didn't feel the pain until much later. But she's not alone with that. Many people have suffered through that. Fashion's important, but be comfortable. Like you'll find crusty old burners wear boots because we've learned that Playa rips the shit out of the bottom of your feet. Unless you're one of those crusty, wonderful old hippies who walks around on Phoenix asphalt barefooted, that Playa is going to rip your feet up. You'll have cracks and you'll be bleeding if you walk around barefooted. If you do decide to do that, wash your feet regularly. And it's an alkali-rich soil, so you need something acidic to counter the alkali. A lot of people use vinegar. And in case I forget, remind me, baby wipes are your friend, but get one baby wipe, pour a little extra distilled water into it, pour a little vinegar into that, and let it soak in. Then you have vinegar wipes, label it, and you can use that to wipe off the alkali soil from yourself. Bicycles obviously are the most common way of getting around. Every bike you bring out there will never be the same again. Your gears will maybe work for 2 days, and then you were stuck on 1 gear. Just expect these things. Thin-tired bikes like racing bikes, fixies, they are terrible on Playa. Cruisers, mountain bikes, stuff like that work a lot better. Make sure you have a comfy seat. If you don't have one of those gel wide bottomed old man seats, mine, you know, take some foam and duct tape and make a super comfy big ass seat for yourself, because you get all these little bumps on the Playa, and unless your butt is made of leather, that's going to start hurting after a while. E-bikes are very popular. The rules around them have tightened down because this is why we can't have nice things. People brought their e-bikes out there, they're doing 40 miles an hour on Playa. This year, they're enforcing speed limits. They will warn you. They'll confiscate your bike. It's just not worth it. If you got your e-bike out there, ride slowly, be respectful. The speed limit on Playa, by the way, is 5 miles an hour. From the time you pass greeters onwards. Before that, it's 10 miles an hour. After greeters, it's 5 miles an hour. And cops will use that as an excuse to pull you over. And then all they need to do is bring their little doggy around, and the doggy twitches, and they're like, oh, drug-smelling dog smelled something. We're going to pull your vehicle apart and search. Don't. It's never happened to me. I know it's happened to other people. Just be careful. But speed limits, the one-wheel boards work well. The rules this year that they pushed out about e-bikes say they have to have pedals. One wheels don't have pedals. And I've seen the stand-up scooter type things also going around. Those you can end up on the ground with because their wheels are really small. But anyway, if you bring any of those things out, just stay below the speed limit, and chances are you'll be fine. The only time you can drive your own vehicle around, and typically people bring out golf carts and stuff like that, is if you have a handicap permit. In the default world, that you can use that to apply for an ADA permit, an accessible permit, and that allows you to drive your own vehicle around. Otherwise, we get in, we park, we shut down our vehicles, and we're foot or bike or mutant vehicle from there onwards. Oh, by the way, if you haven't seen them, that's Big Red, and that's Walter the bus, built on a Walter fire truck, and that's the name that started everything that it is. You will find people coming up and saying, is Walter around? I know Walter. And Kirk is often mistaken as Walter. Elvis sometimes is Walter. So you can always introduce them to Elvis as Walter, I'm sure. Thank you. All right. RVs. How many are going out in RVs? Ooh, lucky people. All right. I've always camped in my tent, but I'll talk a little bit more about that. Few things. If you're renting one, make sure that you got some sort of insurance with it. Find out what happens if you break down, if you have a blowout, stuff like that. Outdoorsy and places like that have sort of contracts with like AAA type of people. I don't believe can somebody help me out with this if anyone knows? Regular AAA has limitations. You have to get like the upgraded AAA to have RV coverage, and the one that has 100 miles and more of towing. So do check into all those details. Cargo space is if you're traveling with friends or people you've met, come to some agreement about this ahead of time so that you're not fighting on the day that you're packing. If you have the option, pack on Friday and shower, rest, and drive out on Saturday, because it's August and you're trying to pack in Arizona heat. It ain't pretty. With your RVs, you don't have like a pump and dump service as a regular service on Playa. You can, if you're lucky, flag down and wave wads of cash at one of those porta potty service people, and they might clean your RV out, but it's a full-on cash. It's a hustle. It absolutely is a hustle. There's no other word for it. So don't plan on that. If it happens, it's a bonus. You also bring your own water in. Now, most people, I would say, don't carry 100 gallons of water from Phoenix. Carry enough for your trip out there, pump and dump in Fallon or Fernley or one of those places just before, and do that. With RVs, you will be charged a very expensive cleaning fee if it's dusty when you return it. Anything you can do to prep that RV, cover the seats with old sheets, cover the seats with t-shirts, use masking tape on all the windows. Definitely the skylight that will never hold up in the 80 to 100 mile an hour winds that sometimes kick up on Playa. Put a piece of plastic over it on the underside, tape around it so that any dust that comes in sits in there, carefully remove it from there. All right. Most of us are in yurts, tents, stuff like that. I used to do the, $100 Walmart tent, and I put some sort of radiant barrier material between the rain fly and the tent to reduce the amount of daytime heat. It is miserably fucking hot out there. Okay, the afternoons, I mean, you think we're bad here, we sit in air conditioned comfort here. I moved over to one of these Kodiaks. I absolutely love it. My only regret was not buying it sooner. I do run an air conditioner in that, and it's got a front and back door. You can, and I'm giving you this so that you know what you could do if you wanted to. I use a couple of 2x4s on either side of the air conditioner to get it over the lip, duct tape to seal the back door, and run my air conditioner, and that works really well. The canvas tents are heavy, but they breathe better, and they're absolutely perfect for keeping the dust out. Shade structures, we call easy ups, easy downs, because they'll last one dust devil is about all they'll survive. If you're buying one of those, you got to get something really sturdy. Costco carports work well. They just weigh like 500 pounds, but they're solid. They're built like tanks. I don't know if you've ever been to a swap meet, but those galvanized steel pole shade structures, they also tend to do pretty well. And you'll see a bunch of that around the camp. Showers. This is an amazing invention, the pump sprayer. Buy a new one, not the one you use with your weed killer. And I really like the Scott brand one because see how it's got this this long stalk here? You can remove that and connect the head directly to the trigger, and you can use that to spritz yourself down, wash your dishes, shower if you don't have hair, but you can do your, and certainly cool yourself down throughout the day. It uses so little water. It's amazing how efficient it is. And so that is something I would highly recommend y'all get for yourselves. Baby wipes, definitely unscented. You can get in with a bunch of friends and buy a case from Costco, or just buy them however you want to. I would take, at least 2 packets of baby wipes, and then a third one with vinegar. One of my friends uses lime juice. He doesn't like the smell of vinegar. I've never tried that. But dilute the vinegar with some distilled water. And I do that to my regular baby wipes also. I pour extra distilled water in so that they're kind of wet, not just damp. The camp shower, as we mentioned, Sven's putting one together.
Just the heater. That's the same shower we had last.
The same shower we had last. So you bring your own water, you pour it into this container and hit an electric pump that pushes the water through.
You'll have a handle.
Okay.
A wand with on-off switch.
On-off switch, and okay. And so that is an amazing gift, and thank you for that, because I got to tell you, you can shower and walk out into a dust storm and still feel fabulous because you wash that skank off, and skank builds up, I can tell you. Sweat and dust and grime, and it is quite terrible. I did have a shower bag on there, but we won't need shower bags for this setup, right?
Right.
Okay, so we can ignore the shower bag. People with long hair never had that problem. Long hair, some people braid their hair, some people corn roll it, whatever it is. And if you do decide, some people just go full on dreadies for the week. And if you are showering and washing your hair, it's obviously going to take a lot more. But I would say don't stress about it. Figure out some way to live with it, because showering and washing long hair takes a lot of water, and that's more complications and stuff for you to bring in. But I haven't got that problem. So let's see, feet, hands, and thighs. Okay, so alkali-rich soil. You're walking a lot more. Most of us are pretty sedentary. I sit at a desk all fucking day. Well, when you're walking, your thighs keep rubbing against each other. You'll get the shaping down there. I get it here with my arms. This skin is very sensitive under your arm. That's where the vinegar wipes come in, and you kind of get that alkali soil off yourself. And if you get into the habit at night to clean your exposed skin, and Elvis mentioned socks. So your skin will dry out, your fingers and your hands will dry out. Fresh socks, I cannot tell you how fabulous they feel. So you, like my nighttime routine is drunk as a skunk. I'll crawl into my sack and I'll do the quick wipe down, clean my shoes off, put lotion on my feet, put on a fresh pair of socks and sleep. And my feet survive. They're baby soft mostly. Hands, I'm really bad with, and I struggle with those. You get those like Burt's Bees types of things, so I clean my hands and use that stuff. It's nasty ass wax, but it saves your hands. Pro tip, new skin liquid Band-Aid type of stuff. You'll find those little cuticle thingies peeling off, and those are the most viciously painful things that you'll ever get, because every time you stick your hand into anything, they'll just peel back further and bleed. Clean that off, put some liquid Band-Aid on it. It's basically super glue, slightly more sterile maybe, but that really helps. Lotion versus aloe, I kind of use aloe. I don't like the stickiness of lotion because then the dust sticks on me, but each his or her own. Trader Joe's has those little aloe things, and I use those generously. Porta potties are what we use for most of our business. And we are kind of, like I said, 90210 high traffic areas. The porta potties are on the radial streets going out, and there's two banks of potties. The first one, anywhere near any big sound camp, kind of gets trashed at night. The second bank that's further out, which is usually a bike ride out to get to them, those are what I call residential porta potties, and they tend to be pristine for the most part. And pristine is a whole different level of pristine when it's on Playa. They're still dusty ass, beaten down porta potties, but they tend to be a lot cleaner. So when you're going to do your morning business, it might be worth the extra trek to the second bank of porta potties to use them. Please.
Yeah, so about porta potties, I'd say like a really good rule of thumb. I should probably just join you up here.
Yeah, please.
A really good rule of thumb with the porta potties is that you usually have lots of layers on. You know, you've got your utility belt. You may have a fur on. You may have a pashmina. You may have all sorts of different accessories that you're wearing. You may have a water bottle clipped to your belt. Keep that in mind when you go to the bathrooms, the porta potties. You don't want to bring any of that stuff in there if you can help it. And so you really kind of like, when you're out on the town with your friends, you work in two to use the bathrooms. One person, what they say, the saying is, you don't bring your fur into the porta. Right. And so it's like your boyfriend, your partner, whoever, it stands out, holds all the furs. You go in and do your business, come out, then you hold the furs or guard the stuff, and they go in and do it up. And I think that the Porto safe wipes are like heaven too, because you never know what you're going to find in those as far as TP is concerned. So like being prepared is like the best way to go and exercise that.
And that's really important to bring up because I always carry, I'm going to be talking a bit about a backpack that I carry with me at all times. It's my go bag. I always have toilet paper in there and wet wipes, a little pack of wet wipes in there. Toilet paper and stuff that comes out of your body goes into the potty, nothing else. Tampons, pads,
Band-aids.
Band-aids, none of that stuff, because it'll clog the suction machines that I use to take that stuff out. We don't want those potties filling up because we're screwed. So please, 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 nothing that doesn't come out of your body except the Porta Potty safe single ply sandpaper, toilet paper that they have out there is what goes into those potties. It's kind of the same stuff you use in RVs. It's stuff that breaks down pretty easily.
What Ruby's kind of saying too is like, it would be bad form to kind of throw non-biodegradable disposable wipes into those portos, even though they probably get sucked up. It's really like something like that. You'd want to have a separate Ziploc bag in your backpack for that type of trash material. And you'll get a little satchel that's called a moop bag, but you don't really, anything that has like fecal matter on it, you want to have in like a separate Ziploc bag, get it into the bottom of your trash bag. You know, that's how that really operates.
Yeah, that Ziploc with you is really your friend. Somebody raised a hand. If you want to unmute and ask a question.
You have two others. Questions.
Oh, sorry.
I got one. Don't pee on the Playa. They will give you a ticket.
Yeah, because I mean, you'll be really tempted to do that at times. That the Playa doesn't absorb water; it becomes a stinky mud pile. Can you imagine 80,000 people peeing all over the place? It'll get pretty nasty soon. Was that a text-based question or?
Yep. So the first question was, well, the first statement was about AAA not being available on the Playa, just outside, just for clarification. That was from Alan. And then Matt asked if we rent a yurt, are they all set up at the same time when the camp is set up?
Elvis, you want to take the yurt question?
Yeah. So this year, most likely, most of the yurts could be built. However, there is the possibility that your yurt will be placed and you still need to build it.
And then the third question is, how much water is recommended for the communal quick shower, parentheses, one time?
You can watch yourself in a 40 gallon.
So I think that they're asking like how much water per shower do you want to allot? You can do a gallon. I think that that's like a pretty reasonable amount. Some people need a little bit more, but really it's about the technique. Get a little bit wet, get soaked up a little bit, and then use the majority of your water for the rinse. And then you're done. Like literally it's that smooth. Or other things that you can do are like, if you need to aim at your hands or feet a little bit longer, similarly, go back over those areas, get wet, soap them really good, rinse them off. And it's like doing the dishes with the faucet on or turning the faucet off every time you are going to wipe and soap things up.
Yeah, you got to be super efficient with that. I easily do it with under a gallon, but then again, not having to deal with half.
And then one more question just came in, but it's going to need clarification. The question is, are we given some sort of ticket once we pay dues? It's not clear what the ticket is.
Oh, for Camp Walter itself, like,
I was just about to reply to ask.
yeah.
No, if you don't pay, someone's going to come after you to pay pretty much.
Yes, for Camp Walter, they're saying.
So no, there's no physical ticket, but there will be a spreadsheet and someone that's monitoring it and they'll come and say, you didn't pay.
Okay, thank you. All right, and the last thing I wanted to mention is, okay, you're doing your dishes, whatever it is, don't throw that water out on the fire. There's nothing like that. What some people will do if they've got room is make a little evaporative pond type of thing. And that's just laying a thick sheet of like a thick garbage bag or something down with 2x4s around it. And you put your water out there, you let it dry. The problem with that is you got to make sure that that stuff is secure and it won't blow away Because there'll be dust devils that'll come up. What was it, 2017, that one came through camp and just ripped apart everything. RV folks, you've got the awnings. If you're pulling that out, you need to be seated under it. If you leave for 2 minutes, put it back in again, because those dust devils will come in like this. Question.
So I know that there's no dumping or anything on the playa. What is their standpoint on doing things like earth anchors? Because I have some of the more heavy duty pop-up canopies, but the legs always seem to taco. So what I do is I cut little wind holes and I replace my legs with trussing. But for the trussing, they have the big aluminum. It's like a corkscrew. It doesn't leave a big trace or anything. You take it in.
You're talking about drilling into the playa.
Yeah, it's like an aluminum corkscrew. Like it's like a really heavy duty
Right.
tent stake.
You can't dig a hole in the playa like you.
Yeah.
Back in the day, people would make hot tubs by digging in the playa, mud tubs.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an absolute mud bath and stuff like that. They don't allow things like that anymore. So, but drilling, so you're talking about anchoring your
basically giant
structures down.
Yeah.
The little tent stakes that are like, tiny pencil thin, those are completely useless on
Yeah, it
playa.
don't work at all.
The old school way of doing it was 2.5 foot pieces of rebar, which you pound into the ground and then you cap with something so that somebody doesn't
Like a
shred their
tennis
legs
ball.
open in, tennis ball, water jug, something like that. These days, a lot of us have moved to what I call lag screws. They are hex head screw, and you use an impact
Oh, it's the
driver to
same
drive
thing.
them in and an impact driver to pull them out. It's super efficient. You can't find them typically at a Home Depot. You go to a place like Copper State Nut and Bolt, and you can order it there, so get on it quickly. Question?
So I guess I could just give some clarification about yurts right now, which is, so the yurt, they're called hexa yurts, and hexa yurts are built with an insulation paneling, and those paneling sheets are 4 feet by 8 feet. Yep, these are photos of them right here. And so if you rented a yurt, what you get with that yurt are the panels that create the bottom. There's a door and a little window that your AC unit goes into. It also comes with 2 rolls of tape, because the way that you build this origami tent structure is with a really unique type of tape that's called bifilament tape. Bifilament tape is like fiberglass and like packing tape. And you use that to build it, and then you'll probably put another layer of aluminum tape over the bifilament tape, because bifilament tape, they found out, dries up really quickly and it's highly sensitive to UV light. So you put a layer of tinfoil tape over it that protects it and allows it to last all week. So those yurts come with an AC unit, and then they also come with what's called a halo. And you can see it in this picture. It's like a lasso that goes over the roof of this structure and then gets staked.
Come up here and have a look at it.
It gets staked into the ground, and it comes with lags. And we have a community impact driver to drive the lags into the ground. So, and then I do believe that they come with tarps too. So it's got a tarp for the floor. Yeah.
They were curious about
Folks, bring the little solar lights for those trip wires around your thing for yourself and your neighbors, because
Yeah.
we're
Harbor Freight sells them for $10 for 4 of them. When you buy from Harbor Freight, test it here before you take it out there, because it is Harbor Freight. It's super cheap.
It sounded like
And
we
it
had
mostly works.
sounded like we also had a question about if you purchased a yurt for $300, you also need to purchase power for that yurt, which is another $200.
Okay. All right. Clothing. I'm going to go through this real quickly. The biggest thing to take away from this is don't bring anything that'll shed. So those cheap feather boas that everybody wears in New Orleans, those are the devil. They just shed those feathers all over the place. But when we do move, and you'll see this, you'll find sequins, yeah, any of those things that just fall off your clothing. Just make sure anything that you're bringing out, shake it out really well. If you're bringing carpeting, that you've cut, the fibers on the very edge of it will keep falling off. Use duct tape and just tape down all those edges so that none of that stuff comes out. Anything else?
Nope.
All right. Couple of things about the weather there. It's hot as fuck, and so daytime temperatures are terrible. And the nighttime temperatures can drop 30, 40 degrees at times. The last few years have been relatively warm at night, but we've had like freezing nights where you wake up and any water sitting outside is frozen, that kind of nights. With the last 5, 6, 7 years have been warm. So we're probably not going to get freezing nights. Just plan for it and plan for layers. Daytime, you might want to wear nothing and walk around. Remember that you're at 4,000 feet of elevation with zero shade. And whether you're bare-bodied or naked or whatever it is, there's parts of it you don't want to get sunburned out there. You will peel, and you'll peel badly. Please plan accordingly. Like go to Goodwill, buy long sleeve white shirts, especially for work week and stuff where you're not trying to look fashionable. Those really help. Fake fur coats are really nice. Again, I'd hit Goodwill more than anything else. Think about hats. If you need insulation on your head, like I do, warm hats for night. Daytime, like I had a hat somewhere. Here we go. Something that has a bit of a brim, a little more than this would be better. And yeah. But it has to be something that'll stay on your head. So ideally one with a strap. Let's see, nighttime. Lights everywhere, right? There's LEDs everywhere. I don't need a flashlight to walk around at night. I really don't. I take one just for when I go inside that dark ass porta potty. But when you're walking around, you need to be seen. So think about that. You need to have lights in front. You need to have lights in the back. Anything that is like LEDs are amazing, but because they use very little power and they give you light. You got to remember there's going to be cyclists out there with no lights on. You have to be visible. You have to be visible to art cars that are driving around. They have lights on, but they have a lot of distraction going on. You want to be as visible as possible. Walking around at night, make sure you have lights. If you can, some people take their hats and really light these things, the hats up, so that they've got 360-degree visibility. If you're riding your bikes at night, you want to have lights front and back, and ideally something like wheel lights. Now, one of the problems you're going to run into with bikes and stuff as you take them out is you're going to park them. You must lock your bikes, not because people are trying to steal them for the most part, but because every bike is Playa gray after the first day. They all look the same. So if you leave your bike, you go to the potty, you drop your bike on the ground, you go to the potty, you come back out, somebody is accidentally ridden off with your bike, and there'll be somebody else's skanky bike sitting there. Just take a cheap combination lock, and I write the combination on the frame of my bike so that I don't forget it. No one's really trying to steal your $35 Craigslist beach cruiser, but they might take it accidentally. Put one of those locks on. When you're going out in the night and you're going to walk into some huge art piece, you and your friends, you find some object and you kind of orient yourself as to where it is. Okay, the man is there and this giant dildo is here. This is the intersection of where we're going to park our bikes. And yes, we will run into that. So little things like that. Dust masks and goggles, absolutely essential.
Yeah, so a couple different things that I'd love to point out about these. The lights. Lights are really important for a couple other reasons besides the apparent. Needing light to do things at night, super important. Also, if you have stakes around your shelter, your shade structure, whatever, that are not lags. Lags drill all the way into the ground, so they're flush. But anything that uses like a rebar or a stake, a metal stake that's long, creates a really hazardous situation. Did you already talk about this?
No, I didn't. That's a good point.
So the reason is, and it's well documented that it happens. People fall on like guide wires that are holding things in place, and they impale themselves on the rebar. So if you can imagine trying to like go through the back of your camp through a way that maybe you've never been and you don't have lights on and you trip on somebody's unfortunate, like unsafe environment, it could really be bad for you. So having lights is super helpful for you in our camp. And a lot of the time that type of stuff should have a tennis ball on the end of it so that you don't impale yourself the same way. Or what's really handy are the LED wire strands, they're light strands. There's a couple you can get on Amazon. I'm sure they can deliver them well within the time before we leave. There's a section, there's kind of ones that have 3 AA batteries. They're really helpful because you can replace the batteries very easily on them. You can coil them on strings and turn them on at night so that all of your strings are lit up. Or like Ruvi was saying, those solar garden torches, putting them by all of your stakes is really helpful. But another reason why lights are really important, at least within our camp, is this may not be true, but it's how I feel about things. People who are roving around as dark wads on purpose are probably up to no good for the most part. And so if you notice someone roving around our camp without a light on, and then this goes without saying regardless within our camp, is I want everybody to be compelled to meet everybody within our camp throughout our stay out there, or at least be willing to meet anyone that comes across your path. Essentially, I want you to find out who someone is if they're lurking around our camp, because Burning Man is a microcosm of the world at large. And so while I don't expect us to be targeted for malicious people, they are out there. And so it's kind of like having, a good block watch. If you are friendly and you see someone you've never met and they're kind of cruising around, maybe they are someone that you don't know from our camp. You should meet them. Say, hey, I'm Elvis. What's your name? Who are you friends with? Where are you camping? What are you doing here? You don't have to put them on the spot like that. But like, what I mean is like, get to the bottom. Like you can invite them to have a drink, find out who those people are. Because if people know that they can't just like rove through our area without being canvassed to find out who they are, it's going to create a much more safer environment for our entire space.
And an easy way to start that conversation is, hey, how's it going?
Yeah. Hey, how's it going?
Can I help you find somebody? Oh, you're camping with us. Cool. Where are you camping? And you start a conversation.
Yeah. And then you're like, cool, you're cool. I'll catch you later.
Yeah.
But if they're
Yurts lock, or should we bring a lock for the yurt?
so
The Yurts lock is the question.
the yurts kind of lock, but it's not like a super, I mean, if someone's going in there, they're going to go into it, but they do have like little things that you could put a lock on, like a little
Here's the
luggage
way I
lock.
look at it. You're not locking anything safely in a tent, a yurt, or even an RV for that matter. If you came out there in a vehicle, your wallet, your money, your credit card, stuff like that, take as much as you can out. Like I have a burner wallet, so I just have the stuff that I'm taking out to the Playa. It may not be too late. You can go on the DMV website and report your ID as lost, and you can get a second copy of your driver's license. So
Yeah.
do stuff like that. Most nights I find two of the most dangerous nights are burn night and temple burn night, man burn night, because they know that 99% of the city is out around those big burns at that time, and the city is mostly empty. That's when the shitbags really come out and start taking stuff. You definitely want to make sure anything you have as well, anything you can't afford to lose is locked up. I have never had anything stolen from me except the bike one year. But I've had friends have their tents slash. It's a zipper. I mean, if you're going into the tent, at least just open the zipper and steal stuff. But they've had their tent slashed. It's quicker to get in that way, I guess. And they, lost a few little things from inside. But yeah, don't leave, don't bring jewelry, don't leave anything that you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Long story long about the yurts. Imagine like a wire clasp. You can lock it, but like Ruby said, if someone's gonna go in there, they're gonna go in there. Yeah, it's made out of styrofoam and tape. So.
I love these things. I can use them over my head, wet them, keeps me cool. dust mask if something kicks up, and they look cool too.
Yeah, they're
So
fashionable.
they're fashionable, yeah, so they're really easy. You can find them on Amazon or any of those other sites, so that's another thing that's really good. All
I
right.
think one year I wore one of those like as a skirt for like 4 days or something.
Yeah, goggles are absolutely essential because the dust storms kick up really fast. And I have a pair of daytime goggles that are tinted, nighttime goggles that are clear. I bring about 4 pairs of goggles because I always lose at least 2 pairs of goggles somewhere along the way. But I'm not good with stuff like that. All right, food and drink, sustenance or pleasure. I love to, and starting to show too. But anyway, I love to eat. But you can do anything from like hot dogs and canned food and dry rations and MREs and the REI freeze-dried foods and stuff like that. Or you can freeze dry, shrink wrap, and freeze your food. I've switched over to snap lock containers because I've never successfully been able to keep my Ziplocs zipped in a wet cooler. Talk a little bit more about that in a second. But I pre-pack my meals. Like I pack leftovers from now on in my freezer and take those out to Playa, and that's what I eat. I make breakfast burritos, so I'll make a whole bunch of them, freeze them, whatever I like to put into it, balance my diet out with fiber and protein and all that good stuff. Because again, most of us are pretty sedentary, and you're going to be walking with, like your fitness tracker will be going off the charts and giving you big props for all the time you spend on Playa because you'll be walking so much. You can cook out there, but remember that whatever you bring out there, it means time, effort, and trash that you have to take back with you. So plan your meals out and don't try not to take too much food, but you can't go to your local grocery store if you run out. This one is super important, keeping your food uncontaminated. A friend of mine brought steaks out. It was in his cooler with his beer. Ice melts. A little bit of blood got into that ice. It touched his beer. He opens the bottle, he drinks it. He spends the next 2 days in the shitter with the runs. It was not pleasant. I would never want to do that. In fact, what I recommend, what you do is you have a food cooler and a drinks cooler. The food cooler, you go with block ice and you only open it at meal times for your food. You keep that in a shaded place, maybe inside your yurt or wherever, but that's the one. Like I'll go through one, I freeze a gallon of ice and use that as my first block. And if you're freezing water, you got to open it, drain out some water, close it, then freeze it, because otherwise it'll burst in your freezer. I use that as my first ice block. And then by Wednesday, I drink that iced water and replace it with a block of ice that I buy from Burning Man. My food cooler, I just get the regular cubed ice, but I decant them into Ziploc bags and put them in my cooler because they will melt. But when they melt and they're in the Ziploc bag, that's iced water for you to drink and less gray water for you to have to deal with at the end. So a little bit of work can help you a lot with stuff like that. Will we have a camp microwave?
It sounds like we will.
Okay.
Yep.
That'll be a good one to get certain, because if that is the case, that's an awesome way to heat up food. Otherwise, what I've done before is I bring my camp stove. I have a full pot of water, which I reuse, and I boil and warm up my cold food in that and just reuse that water again and again. Some people go with meal plans. You get together with a group of friends, maybe the people you're camping with, maybe the people around you. You coordinate that beforehand, and each of you takes turns making one meal for the whole group. Julie and I do that with a bunch of our friends. It's an awesome way to socialize, and you just need a bit of coordination ahead of time. Make sure you take into account allergies and dietary preferences. And the other thing, the last thing, and I want to remind y'all of this, wash your freaking hands before you touch food, before you put stuff. Don't stick your stinky ass filthy hands. Don't put them into the cooler, scoop on ice with your hand and put it into somebody's drink or your drink. You'll end up with the runs. Question.
Is there gonna be like a hand washing or anything, or we should all?
BYO. So the question was, is there a camp sink or place that we're going to be able to wash dishes and other stuff? No. So what I do is, Home Depot have, well, any hardware store have those orange buckets with lids. You bring one of those for your gray water. What you can do, I wipe down my food plates and throw that into my trash can. And then any liquids like brushing my teeth and, all that stuff go into my orange Homer bucket. And whatever doesn't evaporate, I take home with me. Close the lid, take it home with me. Good question. Oh.
So yeah, a couple things to just chime in with Ruvi about. Another really good thing that you can use for your gray water is a water jug, like you would have filled up, that's got like a spout to it, a 5-gallon, or I think those are usually 5-gallon, and maybe a little bit of a funnel, so that you can wash your hands over it. It goes right into that funnel, goes right into that bucket. They have really tight sealing lids, so it's a really helpful way to do it. Usually what I say is, I bring those for my drinking water, but almost immediately I fill up an orange Igloo water tote with one of them. So then I have an empty 5-gallon jug of water for me to fill up with gray water. And yeah, food and drink, like Ruvi says, using either bags or Tupperware to hold your ice so that you can keep it from getting contaminated and then being able to use it as drinking water is like the best way to do it. Hands down. It takes a little bit more work, definitely worth it. Similar like Ruvi, if you are using Ziploc baggies for food in your cooler with ice that's not contained in separate bags or little boxes, it's going to find a way into those bags. I don't know how it happens, but it always gets in there and it becomes a mess. What ends up happening for a lot of people is they end up spoiling a lot of food. And then what ends up happening is you got to bring back all that trashy ass food. And it's like just a fucking pain in your ass. It's a mess. So keep that in mind. You definitely want to be paying constant attention to your coolers. Also, the little like drain on a cooler, be very conscious that that drain is screwed in. A lot of people will find out on the very first day that their drain wasn't screwed, their water melted, got into their food, and then it created this gray water mess either inside your RV or on the ground outside of your RV. You then got to grab shovels and trash bags and take back this contaminated dirt with you. It's fucking really not good. It's the worst, literally contaminating the Playa with gray water, diesel, petrol, anything like that. It's like one of the worst problems to really be facing out there. And food, like you said, freezing things is really a great way to keep your food pretty much easy to go and obviously safe. I love pizza. I love frozen pizza. I can get it room temperature and eat it. It's great. People do that with all sorts of things. Tamales, burritos. It's one of the best food options. You can definitely graze about Burning Man and find food all different places, but having your own ready to eat stuff for when you need it, immediate sources of food, it's like super key, super clutch.
So I also take like power bars, whatever those nutrition bar things. Just keep in mind, I love chocolate, and chocolate is not your friend when you're walking around in 90-degree heat. So you're ending up drinking stuff out of the little thing if you're taking chocolate. But the dry ones work beautifully, and those are great emergency food. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. One thing I wanted to mention here, I also do this, like I buy, the sunshade for the car and duct tape, and I insulate the outside of my coolers, and that keeps my food cooler cold 5 days on a block of ice. Because those 5-day coolers are only good for 5 days if you live in the Arctic. They certainly don't work anywhere near 5 days out there. The Yeti Rotomold coolers are really nice. They do a great job of insulating, but their walls are like this thick. So a cooler this big has an interior capacity of about that much. And they're heavy. So keep that in mind. This is what I call my ghetto Yeti. And it works really well. And it's at the point where it's like held together with tape and paracord and stuff. because everything's broken in it over the years, but it still works. I still take it out then.
Yeah, Yeti, or so Ruvi brings up a really good point about these like ghetto fabulous poor man's Yetis. A couple of things to keep in mind though. This style of cooler right here, it probably is getting really close to similar R value as these roto molded coolers that are really expensive. This is something that you could build for $50, maybe less. You might be able to get the cooler used for 10 or even less, and you find some of this material. It's going to help you if you are with a group of people and you need to have a more fridge space, more cooler space. It's like really much more affordable than, like you said, this same volume of cooler is going to cost you almost $500 if you get a Pelican or a Yeti. Now, the thing though, that's the exact same about these coolers and that you want to keep in mind is, while they do a really good job of keeping your ice cold and your stuff cold when the door is down, if you open that more than 2 times a day, it's going to melt at almost the same rate. So that's something that you need to keep in mind, which is like, if you're with a group of friends and you're camping together and you're sharing that cooler, you don't want to be looking in there to rummage around for a snack. You need to have like a plan for when you open that cooler pretty much, because what's going to happen is people are going to be flicking that lid open, looking in there. And every time you flick that lid in there, you should just imagine 10, 20% of your ice is going to be gone. It's just going to be gone. So, yeah.
That's why I have the food cooler and the drink cooler thing. Because
Totally.
the cooler, you're going in and out of that to get your drinks and your ice and so on. So if you have the space, that's a good way to do it. You know, bring your own utensils and plates. There's always the question like, okay, do I bring paper and then that's trash I need to take them? Do I bring reusable and then I've got to wash it? Well, if I wash it, I got gray water and all that stuff. So I tend to bring paper plates and wooden chopsticks and one-time use and throw and move on to the next. That's the way I do it. But a lot of people bring their own. They just have to deal with the gray water from washing. And that's where the pump sprayer really works out, because you wipe it down with a paper towel, quick spray, soak it down, make sure there isn't food particles left on that, and then put it in out of the dust and store it and use it again. All right.
So along those same lines too, I think that what I was willing to tolerate as far as like what I thought was routine hygiene in the default world before I went to Burning Man, and now after I've been to Burning Man a handful of times, is completely different. Like, I'm the type of person that needs like almost 2 showers a day. Like, I need to be so clean all the time. You know, my dishes are very clean. You know, out there, it's a whole different board. And when it comes to like a plate, you just need a plate to hold all the shit that's falling off your handheld foods for the most part. A lot of the time, it's not really good to like make something like mac and cheese in some sort of plastic box and then put it into a plate to eat it. You want to just like minimize the amount of cleaning you have to do. So your plate is going to have dust on it pretty much all of the time. You need to be kind of okay with that. And the sooner that you can accept the dust, the better. And I don't know if Ruvi mentioned this, but as a first-time burner, for the most part, when you go through greeters, they're going to ask you to get out of your car and they're going to have you just roll in the dirt. So if you have a really sexy, awesome outfit that you want to have clean, don't wear it in. Do not wear it in, because and just be prepared for this too. And essentially what they're trying to acclimate you to is this idea that you can get the Playa on you. It's going to be okay. It is maybe your aesthetic going to change. Maybe you're going to have to embrace the dust a little bit more. Yes, but and people make fun of clean people out there, and it's beautiful to be clean. I love it. The couple opportunities that I get to be clean, but people are going to say, oh, hey, did you just get here? Or did you just get a shower? And, you know, I don't want anyone smelling me, but it was really telling when I learned that some of my greatest friends, Kirk and Mary, for the first 3 or 4 times that they went to Burning Man, didn't take a shower the entire time.
They use baby wipes. They stay
Yeah, of
clean.
course.
Yeah.
But it is a whole, I think that was like, when I learned that, and I had already burned 3 times, I was like, how did you do that?
Yeah.
That's incredible. But it's definitely something to just remember is that you embrace the dust and
Yeah, definitely embrace the dust. Few words about hydration. Water alone isn't enough because you're sweating, you're losing a lot of salt from your body. You want to replenish with both water and electrolytes. So like, I like to take emergency little sachets and I'll whack, knock one or two of those down a day. Gatorade, Pedialyte. You can take the premix, you can take the powder and add it to water, whichever way you want to go. Keep in mind to balance your diuretics and your drinking because beer is not hydration. The alcohol makes you lose water. You want to pee. That's why you piss clear when you drink a bunch of beer, but you're actually dehydrating inside. You got to balance that. I cannot tell you enough how many people end up in, and I'm going to talk about the hospital options, but end up needing medical assistance because they're dehydrated. If you're taking medications, take them in your prescription bottle with your name on it, just in case you end up getting searched. That makes it a lot easier to say, no, these are my meds, these are prescribed. Yes, I need Adderall. This is not my party drug. Talk to your doctor if you're unsure about the side effects of certain medications make you more sensitive to sunlight and stuff like that. Also, whether they're diuretics or not. I have to take blood pressure medication, and that is a diuretic. I got to be that much more careful about drinking more water. Obviously, bring everything you need when it comes to medication, everything you may need. Ladies, if it's not your period week, don't assume that you won't get your period that week. Plan for it just in case.
yeah,
If you're like, COVID's the new thing that we've been running into, come up with a plan. We don't want to leave anyone behind. Decide on where your comfort zone is. If one of y'all end up testing positive on Playa, how are you going to do the ride back? What we agreed to as our group was the person who has COVID would mask up, everybody else decides whether or not they're going to mask up on the way back. It's a long drive, but that way we don't leave anyone behind. We take care of each other. We look after each other. I'm going to talk about the MASH hospitals and tents. I've got an actual slide for that, but there is like a full-on hospital where I've had to unfortunately take several campmates there over the years, mostly for dehydration, sometimes for injuries. They'll set bones, they've got x-ray machines, stuff like that. They do have something that they can't fix there, like a multiple compound fracture, things like that. They might ship you off to Reno. That's on your dime. Any treatment you get on Playa is free. But if you get shipped out to Reno or you get Medivac, that's on your insurance or your dime. And there's insurance for that if you're interested. You had something to add.
yeah. So I agree with Ruby in the science behind beers not being hydrating. However, I would like to think that if you drink enough beer, it's going to at least keep you hydrated. Now that being said, I really like sweet drinks as well, but I think that being very careful about cocktails is really important. I would say that after burning for the number of years that I have, I drink considerably less alcohol on Playa, or I make sure to choose my battles. Day drinking is like so fun. There's some of the most amazing day parties you've ever been to in your entire life, but making sure to keep yourself in check when it comes to hydration is really important. And that's why I usually prefer beers or a really light seltzer, or at our camp, we serve our cocktails as extra refreshing. And what extra refreshing means is every cocktail is like spiked with water. And there's no reason why you necessarily need to be piss drunk all of the time. It's much better to like find a happy buzz and really kind of go back and forth between water or other types of electrolyte drinks. Being hungover is debilitating.
Oh.
Like literally, it'll put you out for a day, maybe 2 days. Like there's definitely cases where people are like, hey, our buddy had a really, really good time last night, but you pay the price. You really do.
And it's too fun of a place to waste a day on.
Yeah.
All right. Sex obviously does happen from time to time. And consent first. Please do not assume. And if you find somebody who looks like they're out of it, help them.
Yep.
Do
Does-
not.
Does everyone here understand consent? Cool.
Sorry, can't educate.
Yeah,
We will have,
we have educators and
Yeah.
And this hearing, yes.
Yep, definitely.
and at any point, if there's a maybe or a no, that's a no.
Yeah, that can change at any point. Yeah, consent
Um,
can be,
Safety first, we joke about safety third on fire. I have friends who are multi-year burners. 1 year she got roofied, we woke up in a tent, she had no idea where she was. She is like a badass biker chick who will, kick ass and take names. One roofie and she was out, and she has no idea what happened to her. Be careful, it isn't like, you don't go to any bar and leave your drink on the counter and go to the restroom, right? Treat it the same way. If you're consuming recreational substances, know your pharmacist. Don't offer drugs to people you don't know. Don't accept drugs from people you don't know on fire. If you're bringing stuff in, be super careful. Keep in mind that weed is legal in Nevada, but Burning Man's on federal land, so it's illegal at Burning Man. You will get busted for smoking weed. Be treated with the same caution that you would. Don't be standing around in a circle, passing around a cigarette and have somebody come, because there are federal, state, county, like every type of law enforcement, BT, Bureau of Tobacco, Alcohol, Tobacco,
ATF,
Fire,
yeah.
ATF, all those guys. We've had people come into camp and they're like super burnery looking, dusty ass people, hang out for a little while and then ask about, hey, anybody got any party favors? Yeah, no, thanks, bye-bye, off you go. Question. So dogs, I really wouldn't bring a dog to Burning Man.
no, she's wondering about,
Drag dogs, yes, they unfortunately do have, yeah.
so,
Yes, no, in the old days, people would bring their dogs and stuff, but it's horrible. Yes, they do have drug sniffing dogs, and that's a shitty thing is they'll pull you over. And if they can pull that drug dog out for any reason. And all that dog has to do is twitch, and that's justified. That's their justification for going and searching your vehicle.
yeah,
So,
So they do that to every car?
so I think,
no, they don't do, I've never had my car searched, but if they, like you're doing 15 miles an hour and they pull you over speeding, then they can choose whether or not, like a friend of mine had his bowl in the cup holder with his roaches and it's just dumb. That's just dumb. You open the window and Tadan smells of weed, of course he's gonna get it. Yeah, so be smart about it, is all I'm saying. I'm not saying this is right or wrong, but some people will wrap their stash in a burrito and freeze it and bring it in that way and stuff like that. So it's deep inside at the bottom of the cooler. So I've heard.
yeah, allegedly.
Allegedly.
And a couple other things about this, just to be a little bit clearer about things. On your way into Burning Man, like in all these small towns or the small towns right outside of Burning Man, or the line to get to the gate, there's officers that are all like watching to see you make a mistake that will allow them to come and search your situation. And that's when you really get in trouble. So making sure the lights work on your car, you're obeying speeding rules, you have your contraband hidden appropriately, you will be fine. What Ruby is more so talking about is within Burning Man, it's a really unique culture between the patrons, the 80,000 people that are there participating as patrons, and the other probably maybe 5,000 or 10,000 military or police personnel that are there working. And a lot of those people have a great temperament, but I'm sure that we've all had instances with police or military, and some of those people are really out there to figure something out. And so if you give them an opening, like smoking a joint on Playa, they may take it, and they may, not make things really enjoyable for you if they find a little bit of contraband in your pocket. And I think that it's really helpful that we are in the dust, because if you have dust, maybe you can get rid of it in the dust. However, carrying on your person is just a very poor idea if you have a lot to lose, which I believe all of us have a lot to lose. Other things that you'll really want to keep in mind is that people who don't have their own situation for psychedelics or whatever, are probably not the people that we necessarily need to be involving ourselves with, because really, if you engage with those people, you're opening up our camp to more risk. So like, hey, can you go and do whatever you want? Of course, I'm empowering you to be free and safe. However, don't bring that into our camp. We're going to have most likely a 5-year-old in our camp, and we're going to have people that are, nearing their late stages of life. And we keep our camp, I would say for the most part, PG-13. And that really is really a lot of discretion in when you're, exploring yourself or exploring other altered states of reality. Really, the sketchiest thing that's like, it does happen, although I think that everything here is not like, we're not sharing it with you to scare you. It's just that these are things to be aware of. Like, I don't see, I see, this consent culture as heavily changing Burning Man for the safer. Are there poor people out there making poor decisions? Of course. What is there, though, that we know is there, is we have people who are really cool that are undercover, and they are going to be like, they'll probably do drugs with you and get an invite back to our camp to hang out. And then the next thing you know, the whole camp has a whole task force of police coming in to check people out, to check out all of your friends, to check out everybody, because there's definitely bad people out there and we need to find them. But at the same time, like, just be cautious about all of that stuff.
Right. And when you walk the bar, they'll talk to you about this too. We do check for IDs. So what has become more acceptable at Burning Man, which wouldn't pass muster over here, is you make a color copy of your ID and you tape it to your drink bottle, and most camps will accept that. If you're old as shit like me, you don't have a problem. But if you look anywhere under 30, the chances are you're going to get carded when you go into places. If somebody comes up to you and says, "Oh, I forgot my ID, can you hook me up?" Yeah, definitely. We've got this electrolyte drink with water. I'll happily fill your glass with that, because they could be an undercover, and we've had that happen. Let's see. Somebody had a hand raised back here. You want to speak up?
I'm wondering about firearms. Are they allowed in there?
If you bring a firearm with you, keep it locked and stored in your vehicle. No open carry, no concealed carry, none of that stuff.
So if they're federally stored, you're okay with them?
Nobody,
Separated ammunition from gun and locked up.
right. The standard precautions that you would use that would cover you in Nevada. I'd look that up if you want to be certain.
No firearms.
No firearms. I thought you can keep it locked and stored in your car.
If it's federal land, it should be subject to federal rules, I would imagine.
No, I'm fairly certain that there's no firearms allowed. That being said, if you're a responsible gun owner and you have it at the very bottom of your whatever at the bottom, but if you get searched and they find that, I do believe that they'll ask you to leave or they'll confiscate it.
Okay. Early years I used to always carry, but
Yeah.
I haven't taken it up
Yeah.
in the last decade or so. All right.
Well, where could I find clarification on that?
I would look on the Burning Man website, but
Yeah.
maybe I might be able to search and post it on the Facebook group.
Yeah, if we
I
find.
just did it. It says it's prohibited on the Burning Man survival. Possession and
Guns are prohibited.
discharge of firearms is prohibited, it says.
I know the rules have changed a lot, evolved a lot over the years as the number of people getting in there has increased. All right, let's see. A couple of important things coming up here. All right, there is a chance you're going to end up needing medical help. And there's three, so we are over here at let me see, for the benefit of the folks online,
9:15.
we are at the Walter symbol over here. That's ooh, idiot. That's about 9:15 and Esplanade. Straight up at 9 o'clock is what I would consider the 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock is more like urgent care. So something that's not serious, not a broken arm or something like that. The MASH hospital right by Center Camp is called Rampart, and they have an X-ray machine. They've got, so you put your IVs, so do the whole 9 yards. There's no cost for using any of these medical services. The only time you have a cost is if you have to be medevac or ambulanced out to Reno, which is the nearest trauma center. If you're interested, if you have health issues that you are concerned about, Amed Care is an insurance plan that's great for travelers. And you can get a family plan or a solo plan. I think it's like $70 for a year or $100 for family. It's very inexpensive, but they'll cover your medevac or your ambulance ride if you think you might be in a position like you have health issues that are of concern to you, or you want to be careful about that. Let's see. Oh, all right. So we talked about law enforcement, and I got to be like, just like Elvis, I've interacted with multiple Leo people for over the years. Every one of them, I've had polite and respectful conversations with them, and it's been a fun conversation. Now, you don't talk, yeah, man, I was totally stoned last night. You don't have that kind of conversation. You have a conversation like you'd have it with a cop who isn't being a dick out here. There's no winning getting into a fight with any of those things, right? But so be nice. Everything will be pretty much cool. BlackRock Rangers, these are burners. They're walking around in khaki uniforms. They've got little boonie hats on. They got this little Ranger logo on top. They are the most amazing people. They're all volunteers. They usually act as the go-betweens instead of going to law enforcement if you've got a problem. They are there to help you. If you've got somebody who's OD'd or who's just out of it, or you find somebody who's passed out on fire, which we have on several occasions in camp, you call a ranger. They have radios. They'll call in an ambulance if needed. If you have to call them in for something to help a friend out, don't lie to them. Tell them everything. Tell them what you know the person's consumed, what they could have consumed, anything like that. They're not here to charge you with anything. They are here to try and save that person's life. Don't lie to them. They have specialized rangers who are there for. One of my campmates decided to go off for psych meds and drop acid instead of mushrooms. Not the best plan to do in an environment. We hid all the knives, but she still completely lost it. We had to call in. So they have these green dot rangers who are specialized in dealing with
De-escalations and
yeah. And there are places where people, Zendo is a place where if you're completely whacked out there on something, they'll trips it, bring you down. There's crisis intervention teams. Somebody got assaulted, whatever it is, and they'll help you with that. There are, Kirk mentioned Wednesday. Wednesday's typically when it happens. And this is for people coming in on Saturday, where you've been partying like a rock star, you have been drinking enough, and suddenly like the dust gets you and you were going to eat and a dust storm came through and your food got blown all over the place, and just that one little trigger incident pushes you over the edge. And we've had people that we've had to pretty much talk down off a ledge, and on one occasion actually had to drive somebody home because she was in a bad place. She knew she was in a bad place. Actually, two people actually. Yeah.
well, there's
Yeah.
actually been a lot of,
Yeah, but
not
you know,
that lot, but
don't let yourself get to that position because you spent all this time and effort and money to get out there. Enjoy it. Don't overdo it. I always say, like, you're sitting in your home, your board is stuck, and you want to do some mushrooms. That's one thing. Going out there at this playground with so much stimulation out there, do enough to be happy of anything that you want to do. Don't experiment for the first time out there. and keep Elvis was saying, keep your mellow buzz if you want to keep your mellow buzz. There is no winning if you go overboard. So let's see. If you know somebody has seen, okay, so you go to one of the Burning Man hospitals, they won't call in law enforcement, drug orders and stuff like that. If somebody's been sexually assaulted or something like that, then they are required to report it. So, you
Yeah.
know,
So Ruby is 100% right. Yes, like the weather and the amount of limited sleep all compound bigger situations that people might be facing. So like I would say just right off the bat, one of the most major issues that our camp faces is when like you're fucking your best friend's boyfriend. You might want to tell them before you go out to Burning Man and everybody finds out. Or, you know, you are working super hard on getting all of your stuff ready and that compromises your situation. Maybe you're overusing prescription meds that you are prescribed and then you go out there and it gets compounded. Those two situations have happened repeatedly within our group. So if you want to avoid the biggest meltdowns I've really seen, don't do those two things.
and you know that the thing about sex on fire, I forgot to mention this, is you're sharing a yurt with somebody, you're sharing an RV. Come to some arrangement about what happens if you hook up with somebody on Playa. And
Yeah, sock
you
on
wanna
the
bring them back
door.
into the
Or,
RV,
yeah.
sock on the door, whatever, and be reasonable. Don't have your 6-hour marathon sex session while your poor campmate is standing outside waiting to get in. You know, be reasonable, be caring, be
Yeah.
understanding, right?
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Be nice. Question. Yeah. Let's see, we talked about most of this stuff. I do have a packing list. You know, most welcome to use this. I posted it on the group list and I'll share the link with you. And it's a Google Sheet. You can download it as a spreadsheet. There are links to some things for more information. Go through it, delete the stuff you don't want, add the stuff that you do want. I also added this after a few years because I have a staged, which is where I'm at right now, and packed is when I put it into the car, the trailer, or the RV. And the reason is I was somewhere near Wickenburg when my wife called me and said, did you need these 3 6-gallon jugs of water that are sitting in our driveway? And that's when you go to Walmart on the way. But anyway, that I've shared with you. This I love. So this is my go bag. And some people hate camelbacks, some people love them. But any sort of water pack, and make that your I'm going to the porta potty. I'm going to take 2 minutes and I'm going to come back. Take this with you because you'll meet somebody and you see this art car and you want to go. So a couple of things that I always carry. I get migraines. I take my meds with me. The toilet paper, the wet wipes, the goggles. You may leave in the morning and you're coming home at 3 a.m. and you need lights. You want dust masks. You want sunblock. You want snacks. First aid kit. Some people carry note paper and a pen because you meet somebody, you share information. Your phone doesn't necessarily work. By the way, phone coverage, cell phone coverage. Week before Burning Man, you might have some. Don't plan on it when there's 80,000 people trying to tap into Gerlach, Nevada, and their cell towers. There's very little coverage on Playa. So come up with your go bag. I also use earplugs and things like that. I carry all those with me. Hand sanitizer, little squeezy bottle is really nice because those pump thingies in the porta potties, I've never seen them with any juice in it. They do have some outside that's replenished a couple of times a day. Don't bank on it.
So a couple of things about stuff that Ruby has in here. So phones are becoming more and more usable on Playa. That being said, I highly discourage you to not use your phone because I do believe that this is like an analog experience that's asking us to unplug from what we consider, like what I consider and a lot of people say is the default world. So by default, we live in this world, this environment with our phones and all of the things that we have to do to live out there. It's really magical. And I'm a really practical person. So when I say magical, I just mean how you feel the movement of people around you and how you operate through time and space is so much different. And I like dates. You know, I want to go meet people. It doesn't need to be like cute people or someone I'm attracted to. I want to meet up with people out there. So having a little notepad like this and a pen allows you to share your contact information. And a lot of the really seasoned burners that have been going for a long time, you may know a handful of things that you might be going to, and you also know where your address is. So things that you may need or want to share or relay to other people on a small piece of paper is like, I want to go see Monolink at Mayan Warrior at midnight or sunrise on a certain day. So you say, you know, whatever, well, Mayan Warrior's dead, but yeah, Calliope on Sunday, 6 p.m. or Elvis or the address, meet me at this place, 6:30 and B on Tuesday at 6:30. And that's really how you can, people aren't always necessarily going to show up, but see you guys, there's a much better likelihood of connecting with people out there if you have a little thing to write notes on, leave like a little paper trail.
Yeah, I have broncholepsy, so I don't remember much the next day.
Yeah.
Yeah, write stuff down.
And then one other thing that he said also and mentioned was that if you forget something, you'll have to hit a Walmart or something. Imagine like 80,000 people, nomads, gypsies descending on Reno. That town gets highly picked over. So if you think that you're going to get something specialized, good luck. You go to these Walmarts, every single picnic chair might be gone. Every single bottle of propane might be gone. Pallets of water, there might only be a couple of racks of water left in certain places. So try to keep that in mind as much as possible. Like if you are planning on doing grocery shopping in Reno right before you go into Burning Man, keep it in mind. You may need to go to 2 grocery stores to find exactly what you might need, or you just get what's there because, you know, everything's gone. All the shelves are, everything's gone off all the
And
shelves.
Elvis says Reno, but keep in mind, when we're going from Arizona, we don't hit Reno. We turn off before Reno. Reno's
Oh,
about a 30-minute drive beyond where we cross the I-80. Fallon, Nevada and Fernley, Nevada are the 2 last towns, and I use the term generously.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fallon's gotten a little bigger, but there's a Walmart, there's a Safeway. Actually, there's two super Walmarts and a Safeway there. All right. The other thing that I always carry is some sort of warm clothing. So I have like something to keep me warm because I might have left daytime and I'm coming back at night. Talked about phones on Playa, walkie-talkies, they're hit or miss. Meetup locations if you're walking around with friends because squirrel and somebody wanders off, loses the crowd. And you know what? Losing the crowd and meeting new friends is also part of the experience. So don't stress. Don't feel you have to move in a group. Don't feel you have to come back in a group. Just be safe. There is an option to be contacted on Playa. It's hit or miss depending on where you are. If you're in a camp like ours that is placed, it's a little easier. If you have somebody who may need to get a hold of you, there's this burningman.org link. You can go to that and somebody from here, God forbid something happens here that requires your urgent attention, they can reach you. They may be able to reach that way and get a message to you. We talked about Moop, we talked about gray water, we talked about the shower stall. We talked about being one with the dust because there is going to be dust out there, just accept it. That's really part of the fun. My favorite thing to do when there's a whiteout is to take a bottle of whiskey and go to the bar and open it up and bring everyone in to have a drink. And then you just have to drink like this and others you'll be eating your drink. We talked about, tent stakes, easy up. Yeah. Oh, when you come back, please, please, please don't make any life-changing decisions for the first 6 months. You come back all hippie, happy and love and peace and everything else, and you decide to break up with your partner or pack up your life and move to Seattle because you met somebody on fire and you're going to live happily ever after. Don't make those life-changing decisions until you come down off that high. Post-Playa depression is also a thing. Some people have this amazing time out there. They come back and suddenly they're back in the real world. I've flown in one time and it was depressing to go to the airport because I went to the airport and you can see who the burners are because they're the ones with the dusty ass shoes and clean clothes. And everyone was back on their phones and looking down and not talking to anyone, and nobody was making, it was like falling back into those default habits. There are local events here, and Arizona Decompression's happening in mid-October. That's a local camp out about 3 hours south of us, south of Tucson, and we have a regional burn in April. Thank you. I don't remember what that QR code was for. It might be for the AZ Burners site. That's a local. Okay, thank you. I put it up there for a reason. I knew it was there.
Yeah.
All right, folks, that was it. Does anyone have questions?